Hi,
Hi,
Elizabeth.
Hollis. How are you?
I'm well, ma'am. How are you
I'm
doing?
doing great. Can you hear me all right? I've been sort of moving things around just to make sure I was getting a decent signal, but it comes and goes a bit.
You sound outstanding. Perfect, perfect. We're so happy to have you. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mute your phone and I'm going to finish your intro and then we'll go live. Okay?
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome to the Hollis Chapman Show, where we celebrate the power of words and the beauty of storytelling. Join us on this journey as we delve into the minds of successful authors and small business owners who have mastered the art of crafting captivating narratives that inspire, educate, and entertain. Prepare to be inspired as we explore the boundless possibilities that come from sharing stories and experiences that shape our lives and ignite our passions. Through heartfelt conversations and insightful discussions, we uncover the wisdom and creativity that fuel these incredible individuals in their pursuit of greatness. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let the magic of storytelling transport you to new worlds and perspectives. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and uplifted as we embark on this storytelling journey together. Stay tuned for an episode filled with wisdom, inspiration, and the power of words. Welcome to the Hollis Chapman Show, where stories come alive. Let's begin this adventure together. Don't miss out on the opportunity to connect with some of the most talented and compelling voices in literature today. Tune in and let the journey begin.
Hey, hey, welcome to the Hollis Chapman Show. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope everybody's going well. Hey, we have a very powerful show today. Okay, I guess it's special. She's here from um, Georgia. She is the Fuller E. Calloway Chair of Law at the University of Georgia. Go Dogs. All right. She has written 40 articles and essays in legal journals. Okay. And she's a frequent commentator on NPR. That's my favorite show, NPR. See it all the time. So, welcome. Without further ado, let's welcome to the show our special guest, Elizabeth Burch.
Having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you very much for joining us. You got a powerful story to share and tell. Kind of tell us a little bit of the backstory about this. What was a wow moment for you to write this book? I'm sure you've been in law. You probably saw a lot of stuff, and you said, "Okay, this is enough. Let's break this out." Okay, so share a little bit about how this all. Tell us more about yourself, and then start into the book and how you kind of. Okay, I got to write this book.
Yeah, well, I've been writing about the issues in mass torts for 20 years now, and nothing really changed.
Mhm.
So I figured at some point that I needed to write for a broader audience. And what really was the tipping scale for me was doing a study on procedural justice and talking to plaintiffs who had been involved in these cases and realizing just how bad it had been for some of them. And so I went back to school. I went to our journalism school and got an MFA in narrative nonfiction. And while I was working through that, I actually started writing this book. About a couple of months into my MFA program, I got an email from a whistleblower.
Mhm.
And that whistleblower ultimately became one of the people in what is now the Pain Brokers.
Wow. Power to her for coming forward. That's, sometimes it just takes that one to get things rolling, because everybody's kind of scared, kind of behind the scenes. But,
Right.
so she came forward, and that's great. And you sit there and put the foot down, and that was great. What do you think, real quick, and kind of off topic of what's going on in Minnesota as far as stuff?
Yeah, I mean, that's, just sort of following all of that is shocking, and
Yeah,
it's hard to watch, and it's hard to really sort of comprehend and grapple with. So,
yeah,
my heart goes out to all of those people who have been
right.
involved. That's rough.
Okay, so and you kind of give us the inspiration of why you write the book. What do you think about? Because you mentioned tote. What was that term you used? I'm trying to look at my notes here.
Was it mass tort?
Moratorium, yes. Okay, for 20 years. Kind of explain what that means.
Yeah. So a tort is a harm. It's like a punch or a kick or a car accident.
Okay.
It's not a layer cake. It's a tort with an E, so which is a little different and much more delicious. Um, but a mass tort is when thousands and sometimes hundred thousands of people have been hurt by the same sort of product. So
Mm.
the opioid litigation is an example, the BP oil spill is an example. When people are hurt by the same sort of medical device, as in the case of pelvic mesh in the book, that's an example. Um, so these mass torts are handled at the federal level through a very different kind of system, and it's not the typical system that you expect when you enter into a courtroom. I think a lot of people expect to have their kind of Perry Mason or Matlock moments where they get to speak truth to power. And at the federal level, all of those cases tend to be aggregated through the same sort of system, which means that a lot of these folks feel like they're a number on a spreadsheet.
You mentioned in your book the exploitation of women in healthcare. Kind of give us some real break it down to how bad it is, women getting exploited in the healthcare system.
Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways the scam that I write about is born from the dismissal of women's pain by doctors, and I think that's been well documented. There was a book a number of years ago called "Invisible Women" and the data
Mm.
bias for women, and how the studies are all sort of keyed towards men. But in this case, I think a lot of women had pelvic pain. They had mesh inserted to deal with some sort of incontinence, and that mesh began to erode within their bodies. And so when they went and talked to their doctor about the pain that they were feeling, their doctors, just said, "Oh, you're fine. It's all in your
Mm.
head," which opened the door for these callers to be able to wiggle their way in.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. And how do you the call centers, the rogue doctors? Talk about that because I never even thought about it that much. But the call center system, as we have it now, is a big, big, big problem, right?
It is. And this actually started with call centers. It actually started maybe a little before call centers. There was as there was a big move to outsource electronics record keeping to India by private healthcare insurance companies. Those Indian companies then realized that they were sitting on a gold mine for mass tort
Mm.
lawyers. So they were able to look at what they were receiving, and they could identify exactly who had mesh and the date of their implant. And so they teamed up with a call center that was stateside in South Florida, and they began cold calling women. And the women on the other end of the line, it was kind of the reverse of what you would expect a scam to take place. So instead of asking the women for their birth date and their medical information, they had all that information, which made them sound legitimate. So they said, "We see you had your implant on X date. We see here's your doctor's name and here's your birthday, and you have to have this removed immediately. It's a ticking time bomb in you." So, for a number of the women, they thought it was actually the mesh manufacturer that was recalling the mesh, like you would receive maybe a postcard in the mail about recalling some kind of car part.
Mm.
So they felt like it was a legitimate thing that they had to do.
That's nerve wracking because I go through this because I'm on the line a lot, so I get these emails and stuff like that, and it's confusing. Is this true? Is this not true?
Right.
Stuff like that, and I'm sitting there thinking, I never ordered that, so I'm going to delete it. And all of a sudden,
Right.
a couple of days later, I get another, and it's like, yeah, so I can understand how these people feel because it's like, holy smokes, they got too much information about me not to be true.
Right.
It's like I never ordered that. I never did that. So, yeah, I can sympathize with them. All right. Can you discuss ethical dilemmas surrounding the pursuit of justice? Now you start writing a book. Now you start having multiple interviews with people. So things are coming down. What kind of backlashes do you get? What kind of door closed in your face did you get when people knew that you're coming after them or you're going to write a book about them? Kind of share that with
Yeah, it's been a lot of doors closed over a lot of years. I've been writing about some of these problems in mass torts, and that was certainly exacerbated by this book. I think people who are heavily involved in the mass tort system tend to be stakeholders within that system, whether it's plaintiffs' attorneys or defense lawyers, and even, to a lesser extent, some of the judges. But they have an interest in keeping the status quo as it is. And so when you begin to come in and talk about problems and talk about disruption, that's not something that they want to hear, because they're, in the case of the lawyers, many of them are multimillionaires many times over from these types of cases. So nobody really wants to talk to you about that. And certainly some of the kingpins who were involved in the scam did not want to talk to me. And the lawyers, by and large, didn't